When did you first pick up a cricket bat?
Probably my father had one ready for me the day I was born. I mean, he was a mad cricket-loving Yorkshireman who, thank God I was a boy. I'd have been a girl, God alone knows what he'd have done. And he had one ambition for me, as all Yorkshire dads did in those days, we're going back to the 1930s. That was to actually have a son who played for Yorkshire. My father died believing I was a failure. He actually did believe I'd done nothing in my life because I had not played for Yorkshire cricket. So from a very early age, I was interested in the game. I picked up a bat probably 4 or 5. He coached me. I could bowl a bit as well. And then I had this great ambition myself to become a Yorkshire player, to wear the white rose of Yorkshire. That was every young boy's dream. So in those days, of course, Yorkshire were formidable. They had a series of very good sides indeed. And the tradition was very, very strong. And eventually, my father captained me in the local team, and I started playing in that league cricket when I was about 11 or 12. And then eventually Barnsley came in for me when I was about 14 or 15. And I moved to the Yorkshire League, which is very tough cricket indeed. It was proper league cricket, you know. Didn't have the superstars that Lancashire League had, but we had wily old pros playing against you, and you learned a lot from them. You weren't going to get hurt by Charlie Griffiths, but you're going to get bamboozled by George Henry Pope. You know, that was the sort of thing about it. And I got the call to go to the Yorkshire Nets. I was playing with Dickie Bird and opening with Dickie and young Geoffrey Boycott. And the three of us went to the Nets together, and I shall always remember how sad I felt because I was in this net and the bowlers at me were Brian Close, Raymond Illingworth and Fred Truman. Now, you know, that's an ordeal enough for a good player, but for me as a kid at 16, it was a bit too much. And I saw our coach talking to Dickie Bird at the top of the net and chatting away. When I'd finished missing the ball for those 3 bowlers I mentioned, I went up to Dickie Bird and I said, Dickie, I saw he told the coach, what did he say? Well, he said he hadn't got much to say, but he just said to me, he said, does I know him, that kid back in the nets? And Dickie said, aye. He said, who is he? He said, he's Mike Parkinson, my mate. He said, does he mate have a job? He said, oh, as a matter of fact, he does. He's a reporter. He said, all right then. He said, I'll tell you what, when the next you see him, tell him to keep on reporting. And that was the note from the pro that I wasn't good enough for the Yorkshire Cricket Club. So I decided to be a journalist. And so you could actually say that conversation that we had with the coach of Yorkshire determined my career.
And at that age, was Geoffrey a standout player?
Oh, yeah.
Was he always...
He wasn't. He was interesting. When he came to us, he had these National Health spectacles taped to the back of his head. He looked a bit of a dill, actually. But what he didn't have, he wasn't a greatly gifted natural player, but he had a steely determination and an iron will to get better and better and better. I mean, he was a grotesquely bad fielder when I knew him as a kid, but he made himself into a very good fielder indeed. And as a batsman, he just got better and better and better. Opening batsmen are curious people, aren't they? And Geoffrey was psychologically attuned to being an opening bat from the very beginning. He loved batting. He didn't mind how slow he was. He didn't mind he'd bowl the backside of it. He just didn't care. You know, he stayed there. That was his job. And that's been his determination all his life. I was with Birdie now about level as a cricketer, I suppose, batsman. But away he went, you know, became the most famous umpire in the world. And I ended up being attacked by an emu. So you could actually say that I didn't make a very great success of my life. And we're still friends. I mean, I love Geoffrey and Dickie, and I'm proud to have been associated with them.
And who, as the group of you grew up, who were the heroes of Yorkshire cricket in that era?
My great hero of Yorkshire cricket, to start with, was Len Hutton. But I saw very little of Len Hutton. I knew him by rumour. I saw him play a couple of times. There's an indication of greatness there. But my great hero, and became my great friend, was Fred Truman and Brian Close, the two of them. And Raymond Illingworth, come to think of it as well. You know, we all got on very well together. Fred was an extraordinary man, and I love writing about him. I love watching him play. The most beautiful action, side on, you know, a proper bowler, a quick bowler. And then when he slowed down, he could seam it and swing it. You know, he was a hell of a cricketer. Good bat, you know, could whack the ball around, marvellous field close in, could throw it with either hand from the boundary. I mean, what more do you want, you know?
Often there's comparisons with Fred and Jimmy Anderson of the modern era. How would you compare the two?
Well, no, I mean, both are great bowlers, of course, but Fred was, to start with, a genuinely quick bowler. I mean, Fred was sharp. You know, he was up there with the Holdings and people like that, a 90-mile-an-hour bowler and over. So that's when he first started. Then he became, as he had advanced his career, more like Jimmy Anderson. He could swing it through But having said that, I think that Anderson is the best swing bowler I've ever seen. I think he just is a master now of the craft. And I love watching him bowl, I really do. It's like watching somebody paint a wonderful picture, isn't it? It's extraordinary. Good player. And it was a very good-natured game, but it was a very tough game. I mean, Yorkshire League cricket was I try and tell my young children now down at the local club how intense it was. You know, I mean, you were to practice 3 or 4 days a week to be considered to be picked in the second team, never mind the first team. And when you got in the first team, you're playing with guys who spent a lifetime learning how to bowl or bat or whatever. And they weren't friendly to you either. They made you understand that you were there, you had to be there on merit. And if you're a 16-year-old playing against, you know, a county fast bowler, nothing was spared. I mean, you're there on merit.
As a young lad going out to bat in the Yorkshire League, was that nerve-wracking?
Yeah, it was. Well, I used to open with Dickie. Yeah. Dickie was the worst one. I mean, he used to, in those days, we had these sort of horsehair, they're like tubes on our batting gloves, you know. He used to bite his nails through the horsehair. So he got a bat and he'd have this sort of horsehair moustache on his face. And he once was so, I mean, he was so nervous, he didn't know what he was doing. He once actually, it's absolutely true, they were going out to bat at Barnsley. The dressing room was on the first floor, so he had to walk down these stairs. And he buckled the top 2 straps of his legs together. So he got up and fell headlong downstairs. We had to send the St. John's ambulance brigade. Carry him on the field. So it was nerve-wracking. But you learn, you know, you learn. I mean, George Pope, who played for Sheffield United in those days, Keith Miller said was the best swing bowler he'd ever faced. In fact, Keith went to him to ask him what was the secret of swing bowling. And George Denny Pope took his hat off and inside was a thick leather bro cream. He said, that's the secret, man. So, you know, when you played against those guys, you better be up to scratch and you better learn from it too. You know, you never got to get a lot of runs against them. They're too good, but you did learn something all the time. And it was a great school to learn in.
How good's Joe Root in your opinion?
I think he's the best player in English cricket at present, without doubt. And if he's going through a bad patch at present, but I've got no doubt that Joe Root will become to be assessed as one of the greatest batsmen that's played the game. I've got no doubt about that. He plays so easily, he times it so well. I mean, he got out in this game to 2 horrific shots. I mean, I can't believe it's Joe Root. I mean, that shot just now, he got caught in the square leg boundary. It was like he was offering up fielding practice. You know, an easy one, yeah, bang. Joe Root doing that. So there's something a bit amiss there. Maybe they've got to move him back to 4. I don't know. I just don't know. But I've got no doubt about his talent.
You talked about the coaches and your dad giving you coaching when you were a lad. What do you think they'd have made of some of the shots that Joss Butler and the young players coming through today are playing?
Well, I think they would be true cricket lovers in Yorkshire, you know, play straightforward and never use a cross bat till June comes, you know, or something like that. They'd have been horrified, but I have to say, I love it. I mean, it's just great showbiz, and what an eye they've got, these kids, you know, too, and the invention is extraordinary. And I love going there because they love the game like we love the game, and they play the game like Yorkshire used to play the game.
Brilliant. So, Michael, thank you very much.
My pleasure. I enjoyed that. My pleasure.
Thank you.
No, not
brilliant.
At all. Okay.
It's yours, isn't it?
It is mine.
All right.